Hey, beautiful people. A little quick one. You hear people speak of trading with the Enemy Act, Patriot Act. Everyone has been turned into an enemy combatant, military occupation, this, all that good stuff, right? As always, we ask here, how and why can that be practically seen in daily life? And beyond the whole quote, police brutality situation, what are the intricacies involved? Well, here's one of the intricacies involved as to how people are treated as combatants. As always, in order for you to know where to begin to solve things, you have to know where the problem lies. In this case, issue of privacy. Did you know that anytime you're inside a postal property, which is a private property that is built by GSA and is funded by the General Services Administration, hence it's private properties to which the agency of the United States, which is the United States Postal Service, contracts with under private agreement to lease it. Hence, they consider it private property. And whoever goes into that property line is deemed to be subject to inspection, whether that be their personal effect or other personal properties, the purse, the vehicles, etc. Now, there's this thing called the Fourth Amendment. It says the right of the people to be secured in persons, houses, papers in effect against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing a place to be searched and persons or thing to be seized. See this Fourth Amendment requirement and the state equivalents when it comes to search and seizure, and the requirement of oath of office, and the requirement of probable cause and its extension being a reasonable articulable suspicion. When it comes to private properties, we're not saying whether it's right or wrong, but if you're saying you have a right, these are the intricacies you need to know about. Millions of people step into postal properties every day and are clueless about the terms and conditions involved in their mere presence or their mere interface with the employees of any given entities. Here is one of those undisclosed conditions that you've never been aware of. And by the way, if you're hesitant as to whether the United States Post Office is a federal agency, here's USA.gov, A to Z index of government departments and agencies. If you go to U, it tells you U.S. Postal Service is one of them, USPS. And nonetheless, here's one of the things not disclosed. If you were to ask someone about, well, what are the functionalities of military powers being enforced? What are the functionalities of the Patriot Act beyond banking, which is another one that we'll be going over on Patreon? What are the functionalities of the Liver Code? What are the functionalities of all this rhetoric people go on about? What are the functionality of it? And the part that could possibly be unconstitutional now. We're not here to create a brouhaha and say, well, it's unconstitutional, this is bad or wrong, but you use your own discernment and your common sense. Again, for you to be able to find a solution, you have to know where the true problem is, beyond speculation and being mad. 39 CFR subsection 232.1, conduct on postal property. What we're looking for is the inspection, recording presence. Purses, briefcase, and other containers brought into, while on, or being removed from the property are subject. What property? Postal property. Purses, briefcase, and other containers brought into while on or being removed. In other words, your personal effect. That are being removed, that are brought onto, or that are in existence while you're in the property are subject to inspection. However, items brought directly to a postal facility's customer's mail-in acceptance area and deposited into mail are not subject to inspection, except as provided by Section 274 of the Administrative Support Manual. A person arrested for violation of this section may be searched and subject to the arrest. And this exception, when it comes to mail, remember, it lets you know that your personal effect is subject to inspection, aka the search. Don't let the words fool you. Don't let the double speak fool you. However, when something is in an envelope, when it's in a box and it's addressed to somebody, they can't search it unless this subsection allows them to. Remember, you're going into someone's private place of business. The USPS is a private business, and they have their own internal regulations to regulate the business affairs and how they handle information. And the exception and the way out, in order to also be able to inspect, aka search your properties, even if it's what you're mailing, is put into 274 Administrative Support Manual, and that deals with mail securities, and they give it to you right here. This is one of the things that the alphabet boys use as an excuse beyond other things. There are a plethora of other things that they use, but this is one of the things that they use to basically track people sending things they're not supposed to. Nonetheless, that's an exception. In other words, in summary, what all this just says is whatever you have in your possession is subject to inspection. And when it comes to things that are already sealed, you first have to be arrested in order for it to be searched. But this first part where it talks about your personal effect that are not already sealed and it's being mailed out, it says nothing about first being arrested. The discernment you ought to use it by asking yourself is this constitutional or not? Even more important, it says vehicles and their contents brought into while on or being removed from restricted non-public areas. Restricted non-public areas. In other words, there are areas designated within the postal properties that are meant to be restricted by way of reasonable expectation of the same, either a gate, a window, or secured areas, locked areas, whatever it is that requires some access key or some access card. Those are restricted areas. It doesn't necessarily have to be access card. It can be like a gate, but if it's open, then there's no expectation that it is restricted. And in some case, there'll be a posted notice. Vehicles and their contents brought into while on or being removed from restricted non-public areas, meaning only restricted areas. Does this apply to specific to vehicles? Are subject to inspection. A prominently displayed sign shall advise in advance that vehicles and their contents are subject to inspection when entering the restricted non-public area, while in the confines of the area, or when leaving the area. When it comes to your vehicle, there will be a notice that lets you know whether restricted areas or not. When it comes to your vehicle, that can only be searched in non-restricted area. When it comes to your personal effects, your keys, your pocket, all that other stuff. What they're saying, listen, these are not my words. What they're saying is they can basically search you. Again, ask yourself, is this constitutional or not? And if it's something that you're mailing out, well, they put exceptions for themselves to nonetheless search it. So go and read it. Persons entering these areas who object to and refuse to consent to an inspection of the vehicle, its content, or both, may be denied entry because, well, it's a restricted area for aka employees only. You'll see those signs. But here's the more interesting part. For this to be enforceable, applicability. The section applies to all real property under the charge and control of Postal Service, to all tenants, agencies, and to all persons entering in or such property. This section shall be posted and kept posted at all conspicuous place on all such property. Again, this section shall be posted and kept posted at a conspicuous place on all property. Once more, this section shall be posted and kept posted at a conspicuous, meaning obvious place. It's not hidden, it's not small, it's obvious. An obvious place on all such property. This notice is usually not placed in a conspicuous place where people can see it. So here's your way out in case of any situation. But nonetheless, even if it was posted, ask yourself, is this B1 first clause, first sentence, is it constitutional? We can understand restricted areas. If you go into areas that are restricted, well, if it's a private property and if it's clearly posted as being restricted, then maybe they might have the chance to regulate their property in the way they can, but this other end, maybe not so much. So awareness is the key to find a solution. Awareness is the first stage of competency. Liability compels performance. Value compels performance. You cannot hold anyone liable if you don't know the reason why they're told and they're telling you they can do something. Worst comes to worst, all they're going to do is condition their employees to do something arbitrarily without comprehending the language of the law, without comprehending the language of whatever it is to say they can do it or the exceptions involved. You, on the other hand, as one of the people, say you have a right. You must know the intricacies attached to those rights and how loopholes by entities that you interface with every day. There are many other things like public side roads and easements and things like that that people don't even know about. People think easements are limited to just utility poles and gas and all that stuff. It's way more than that. But this is just one of those other little subtle intricacies that people interface with every day. Keep that in mind. You say you have right to be secured in your person's papers in effect, right? You use the post office? Well, here's something you ought to put into consideration every time you go in there. Until next time, take care. Best of luck. Hey, beautiful people. I'm inviting you to come join my Patreon page. We speak about everything we don't speak of here on YouTube. On the Patreon page, we speak of establishing privacy in many different means, how to hold tortfeasors liable, the different types of discharge, and the steps to actually do it. Now I'll be showing my own proof of the success. The intricacies involved in why and how it works, and the things no one else would tell you because they've never discharged themselves. The intricacies of settlements, suing people, and many other basic things like other tools that you can use privately, things of spiritual nature, because this goes beyond what you observe with your five senses. And if you just want to limit your remedy to just what you observe with your five senses, think again, because the other side is not playing in that realm. It's not an even playing field. Other things like study tools are shown, things regarding trust and asset protection, and how to layer trust properly the way people seek it, and the advantage of how to do it. Banking, the functionality of how they function, and the validity of it that a lot of people misuse or are misled by, where they think, oh, these other guys are bad, so now I have to just go into argument mode. No, you don't always have to argue. The law is perfected for your benefit if you're competent about it. Many things regarding child support, different examples of settlement checks, and the videos on it, the different aspect of how you can broaden your mind internationally beyond the little chicken scraps that people are picking up when it comes to passport and things of that nature. How banking work, how property protection work, the details of copyright, tort, privacy, different types of trust, the intricacies, and exactly why and how they are done. The intricacies that people from other parts of the world know about trust that you don't. Just because you read something on social media and whatnot doesn't mean you really got it. The intricacies of how to use certain jurisdiction and the stuff everyone speaks of. More in child support, more in trust, more in court, more in spiritual nature of things, etc., etc. The fact that tax avoidance is different from tax evasion. The importance of things in commerce and how to actually function in commerce. How to actually really do things as a natural person is beyond speculation. But let me give you this caveat. If you're looking for a cookie cutter or some quick fast food way, this is not it for you, either here on YouTube or on Patreon. But if you're serious about your education and the functional application of it, rather than the mere accumulation of information, then come on over on Patreon. There are things we speak about over there that are universally and exponentially beneficial compared to that of the ones we speak of on YouTube. And more importantly, the practicality and the actual use of it. Take care. Best of luck.